Hey now, don't dream it's over. Without too much self criticism, I asked myself this question: why am I doom scrolling as society collapses? Because the division in America keeps worsening, it's worse than it's ever been. The hatred on social media has reached absurd levels. And I know none of it's good for me, and yet I can't seem to pull myself away. Or at least I haven't been able to pull myself away. And I referred to it recently as a sleep paralysis situation. Because in sleep paralysis, it's like you are frozen and your eyes are open. And you're seeing something that you don't want to see, but you can't fully wake up and you can't look away from the thing that you're seeing and you can't move. And so, relative to social media, I just asked myself, why is this happening? Why am I doing this? And because I couldn't pull away, I had to do something radical, which is instead of continuing to fight it, I just let myself doom scroll, stepped outside of myself, and observed myself indulging the habit to figure out what is going on. And the first thing that I observed as I was doom scrolling, I realized clearly I am looking for something. I'm doom scrolling, and there's some things that I see that I don't really care about, scroll past that quickly, but there's something that I'm looking for, and it's not necessarily something specific, but rather it's something that will bring me a specific feeling, and I know what the feeling is when it hits. And so then I asked, well, what is that feeling that I'm looking for? And when people, experts, talk about social media, they talk about dopamine hijacking and things like that. And you could say that that's somewhat true. But I think it goes way deeper than that, which is that I'm not looking for an emotional feeling, or rather, I'm not looking for a positive emotion or a negative emotion. But rather, when I'm doom scrolling, I'm looking to find something that will give me a release of emotions. And observing that is the one thing that has finally helped peel my eyes away from the darkness that is on social media. And here's what that release of emotion is. It is a word, and that word is catharsis. And so, what is catharsis? Catharsis it started off as a Greek word. It was coined by Aristotle. And in ancient Greece, they had plays, and obviously they were asking a bunch of questions. And so Aristotle is looking at all of these people watching plays, and he's like, why do they like that? What is so compelling about people watching plays? It can't simply be entertainment or escapism. It might be that as well. But what is the benefit that it's bringing them? There has to be some utility happening here. It'd be too simple to say just pure entertainment. What is happening? And so he coined it as catharsis. And what catharsis is relative to a play or movie. We'll describe this and then we'll relate it to social media. Relative to a play and a movie, catharsis is the hero, the protagonist, is in a bad situation, or he's got a problem that he's trying to solve. And when you observe the protagonist trying to solve that problem or being in a bad spot, what it does is it stirs up negative emotions within you. So, for example, it stirs up feelings of fear and pity. Emotions that are negative but repressed, and emotions that you may not be able to clearly articulate yourself. But it does stir those up by watching the protagonist, and it brings them to the surface. And a beautiful thing about a play or a movie is that the loop closes. And so when a story ends, the reason why if you watch a good movie, you feel good when the movie's over, is that it brings those emotions to the surface and the resolution releases them. And so it's not like it's not as though the emotions are, you've merely resonated with the hero and you've seen him do something good and you like that, or it's entertaining, but rather your own emotions resonate with his emotions, and he or she becomes like a scapegoat, and you put your negative emotions on them, and then them overcoming the scenario literally releases the emotions. They may come back because of the way that you live your life, but in that moment they're gone, and it feels good. It's a release. And a quick side note, that's why I would also say that bad movies are so disgusting, because you may disagree with this, but for example, I watched Shutter Island a while ago, and when I watched Shutter Island, it stirs up all of these negative emotions within you, within me, but the end is not redemptive. The loop isn't fully closed. It just throws this darkness at you. And both tragedies and comedies can be redemptive. The issue isn't that it is a tragedy, it's that there is no redemption. The whole thing is just dark almost for darkness' sake. It's a nihilistic movie. And I watched that like 2.5 years ago, and I literally got sick. I could have just been getting the flu, but I literally got sick for a few days after, and I put it on the fact that that movie was so bad. Anyway, so how does catharsis relate to social media? This is a profound realization. If you ask yourself this, what social media is made up of a bunch of narratives. It is like the modern day news, and there's so many narratives that you can witness on social media. But the question is, how many of these narratives get resolved? When is the last time that you saw an impactful narrative on social media fully get resolved? They essentially never get resolved. They find themselves in the news cycle, and then rather than the loop of the narrative getting closed, we just incidentally move on to the next thing. Maybe you could say we move on, or the collective attention moves on. Something moves on, and the narrative never gets brought to a resolution. And so that story just drifts out into the ether. And so the reason why that feels bad is it stirs up those negative emotions, brings them to the surface, but without resolution, there is no release. And so you can think of it in terms of a story is a circle. You are in a mundane place, you have a problem, you go into the underworld, you deal with struggles and problems in the underworld, you finally get a resolution, and then you come back to the place where you begin. It's a circle or a spiral. You come back to a mundane world, there is resolution. Or you could view it as a line where it's going here, normal, going up, climax is reached, or rising action, climax, falling action, back to the mundane world. But the issue with social media is all of these narratives are happening, and it brings us to right near a climax, but no climax never happens, no falling action ever happens. And so it stirs up these negative emotions right to the surface, but without any release. And so what happens, what I've observed within myself, and I think this happens in other people, those negative emotions that it stirs up, it's like they bounce up to the surface, but because they're not released, they just go back into your subconscious. And that's why social media does this absurd thing, which somehow causes a combination of anxiety and depression. The anxiety aspect is that it brings you near a climax, and the depression or numb aspect is that because resolution never comes with any of these narratives, and there's so many narratives, that the rising action, the nearing of a climax, without ever having a resolution, and it happening so often, makes the nearing of the climax itself our mundane world. And so the the things that we're always shown are very, very intense, but because we've gotten shown so many of them, we're numb to them. The world just seems like a terrible place on social media, and there are terrible things happening, but without resolution, we just become numb to them. And that is the bouncing of the anxiety and depression happening. We're always told that the economy is on the verge of collapse. We're always shown all of these terrible things with new wars starting. We're always told these hyperbolic situations that we're right on the verge of World War III, and it becomes very intense. And then they also throw crazy things in there, like, and also aliens are coming, and you have whistleblowers talking about aliens, but then that just drifts away. And so we become numb to all of that as well. You've also got Christians. You're not supposed to predict the end of the world, but it's like they can't help themselves, and they always put a date on the end of the world, telling other Christians the world is going to end on this date, and then it doesn't end on that date. And people who are banking on that they become numb to being told that. And that is, again, the bounce of anxiety and depression. So the thing that I've introspected within myself, the solution that I've observed is what I'm looking for is the right thing, but I was looking in the wrong place. Catharsis is a good thing. We do need a release of these repressed emotions, but you're never going to find it on social media because the narratives never have a resolution. And so I think the first solution is just observing that that is what is happening. You're on social media and you see all of these terrible things, but you've almost got to have an acceptance that, at least relative to social media and on the news, they are not going to give you a resolution. But we do need a resolution nonetheless. These things do affect us. And so where does the resolution come from? Well, in the same way that the external world is a story that we are a part of, human beings are not meant to be passive observers of these narratives happening. We're called to be active participants. We need to be active participants in the world. And that doesn't even mean participating in these narratives that we see, but rather all of our lives are a story as well. All of our lives are a hero's journey. And that journey is complete in small ways or large ways. Nobody can tell you what your adventure is or what it is that you should do. But the solution does exist in the day ahead. And by the day ahead, I don't mean the name of this channel, obviously. What I mean is that the reason why I named this channel The Day Ahead long ago is because I realized that despite the nostalgia of the past or the fears of the future, those things are kind of irrelevant, because what is most real is that we do have time today. We have a day ahead today. And your life's adventure is lived in small ways or large ways. Again, nobody can tell you. That is between you and God. But we can't be passive observers of the collapse. At least we can't be passive observers of the collapse. We can be active observers in the collapse, but we can't look at things collapsing and look at the external world and allow that to stop us from living our own life. We have an adventure to live as well. And somehow I think these circles are closed. These circles do need to be closed. These resolutions do need to be brought about because they do affect our life. But oddly enough, they are made through the individuals living out their life's journey, living out our life's journey, doing what we need to do today, loving God with all of our heart, loving our neighbor as ourselves today, denying ourselves and carrying our cross today. That is how these loops are closed. And it is the best news because it is a call to live the adventure of our life in small ways or large ways. And nobody can tell you because it is between you and God. Right. So the first solution is observance, and the second solution is to not let it steal your own joy, to not let it steal your own time away from you. It almost seems like that is its purpose, to take your attention off of what is most relevant. God and living for God in the day ahead. And for now, that's all that I have. Goodbye.